As we speak tonight, the Democratic Party is drowning in a sea of scandals. Senator Al Franken has been forced to issue multiple apologies after now 4 women have come forward to accuse him of sexual misconduct. Now, the allegations include unwanted kissing, groping, and earlier today, Franken apologized yet again, but made it clear he has no plans to step down. Watch this.
I know that I've let a lot of people down, people of Minnesota, my colleagues, my staff, my supporters, and everyone who has counted on me to be a champion for women. If you had, asked me 2 weeks ago, would any woman come forward with an allegation like this, I would have said no. And so I cannot speculate. This has been a shock, and it's been extremely humbling. I am embarrassed. I feel ashamed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start my job. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to work as hard as I can for the people of Minnesota, and I'm going to start that right now. I'm someone who, hugs people. And I've learned from these stories that in some of these encounters, I've crossed a line.
Now, Senator Groper is not the only high-profile Democrat now facing sexual harassment allegations. The longest-serving member of Congress, John Conyers, is in hot water after new revelations show that he settled one sexual harassment case out of court, paying a former staffer not out of his own money, but out of congressional office funding. Another congressional aide has also accused the Democratic congressman of verbally abusing her and even said Conyers once held a meeting in his underwear. This weekend, Conyers issued a statement announcing his decision to step down as the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, but Conyers said he has no plans of resigning from office, writing in part, quote, "I very much look forward to vindicating myself and my family before the House Committee on Ethics." Of course, there's no shortage of Democrats in Congress that are coming out to defend Franken and Conyers. They're Democrats. All of a sudden, they have discovered, well, due process and not rushing to judgment is a good thing. Imagine that. Take a look.
Should Franken resign?
Listen, Al Franken has acknowledged what he did was wrong, and it was wrong. He has also submitted his whole case to the Senate Ethics Committee. I think that was the right thing to do.
Do you think Congressman Conyers, you sit with him on Judiciary, should he resign?
Well, I think the ethics process should proceed.
You know Senator Franken, you've served with him. What do you think should happen to him? Should he resign?
That's the question that will have to be determined after the investigation.
The House Ethics just this afternoon announced an investigation into John Conyers. He needs to be held accountable for whatever happened.
Should he step down?
That, so let's wait and see what the House Ethics does.
Your colleague, Al Franken, has been accused. Do you think he should resign?
I think that is a distraction to be talking about resignation.
Do you now think that your colleague Conyers should resign from the House?
No, and I don't think the rules are different from anyone else.
House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi is also rushing to defend Conyers. She's saying, oh, no rush to judgment. She's actually calling for due process. Watch this.
We are strengthened by due process. Just because someone is accused, and was it one accusation? Is it 2? I think there has to be. John Conyers is an icon in our country. He has done a great deal to protect women, Violence Against Women Act.
He got to hide his settlement. He got to, his accusers had to go through all sorts of craziness. So why is he entitled to new due process in this case?
No, we are talking about what we have heard. I've asked the Ethics Committee to review that. Yeah. He has said he'd be open. He will cooperate.
Do you believe
with
the
any
accusers?
review. Excuse me?
Do you believe John Conyers is accused?
I don't know who they are. Do you? They have not really come forward. And that gets
so you don't know if you believe the accusations?
That's for the Ethics Committee to review.
Now, I stand consistent. I say never rush to judgment. I say everybody deserves the presumption of innocence, and I stand by that in this particular case. But it is funny that Congresswoman Pelosi only seems to care about due process, but only when Democrats are involved. During that same interview, Pelosi was asked about a comment she made in 1998. Then host of Meet the Press, Tim Russert, asked her about the investigation into Bill Clinton. This gets rather humorous but sad.
Why the silence when there have been these allegations, serious ones, about President Clinton?
Well, I'd like to say that I think that the women of America are speaking out about what they think about this whole situation. And the women of America are just like other Americans in that they value fairness, they value privacy, and do not want to see a person with uncontrolled power, uncontrolled time, unlimited money investigating the President of the United States.
With inconsistent statements like this, can you really trust the Democratic Party to be the champion for women, or are they just playing politics with the topic? Can the Democratic Party really stand for women when it protected the Clintons for 30 years, who took millions and millions of dollars from countries with the most atrocious women's rights records? And can the Democratic Party really stand for women when it supports a person for president who we all know actively tried to silence all of her husband's sexual assault accusers? And by the way, even on Meet the Press, they called Bill Clinton a predator, being accused of predatory behavior. The answers to us are pretty simple. Now, we turn our attention to another top story tonight. The lawyers for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn are reportedly meeting with members of Robert Mueller's team, a sign that a deal could, in fact, be in the works. Tonight, once again, we are investigating the investigators behind this Russia collusion probe, including the special counsel himself, Robert Mueller, and one of his top prosecutors, Andrew Weissmann. The L.A. Times this weekend out with a brand new profile on Mueller, highlighting many of his serious flaws. Now, according to the article, quote, Mueller has a record that shows a man of fallible judgment who can be slow to alter his chosen course. Now, the article goes on to criticize his handling of the 2001 anthrax case while Mueller was serving as the director of the FBI. The report reads, quote, his tenacious yet linear approach to evaluating evidence led him to fumble the biggest U.S. terrorism investigation since 9/11. Now, of course, this is the very same Robert Mueller who stood by and did nothing when he was the director of the FBI, while the controversial sale of Uranium One was being approved by Hillary Clinton, Eric Holders, and others in 2010. Now, keep in mind, in 2009, the FBI had evidence of Russian bribery linked to Uranium One. Remember, a confidential informant provided further evidence of a potentially illicit deal. This was 18 months before, where 20% of America's uranium was at stake here, all while the United States faces a uranium shortage. So why didn't Robert Mueller stop that horrible deal? Now some are questioning the motives behind who Mueller chose to staff the Russia investigation. Later tonight, you're going to meet a woman named Sidney Powell. She worked at the DOJ for a decade. She believes that one of Mueller's top investigators, Andrew Weissmann, has a documented history of using strong-arm tactics to seek convictions, unethical behavior. Our own colleague, Greg Jarrett, will also join us tonight. He did digging into Weissmann's past. He came to the same conclusion. Remember back during the Enron accounting scandal, Weissmann, well, he was a hard-charging prosecutor on the task force that brought a controversial obstruction of justice case against the accounting firm, Arthur Andersen. That eventually put that company out of business. It cost tens of thousands of people their jobs, and it was all for nothing. Because in 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the obstruction of justice conviction in a 9-0 unanimous ruling. But that's not the only example of Weissmann's aggressive tactics, resulting in a case being overturned. The conviction of a business transaction between Enron and Merrill Lynch, it sent people to jail, was also reversed by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, critics have also accused Weissmann of intimidating witnesses, creating crimes that don't even exist. And in one case in particular, withholding evidence that was exculpatory, that would have helped the defendant. And just like Mueller, Weissmann is also tied to this corrupt Uranium One deal and the ensuing cover-up. Weissmann ran the DOJ's fraud section during the Russian bribery scheme. And Greg Jarrett noticed that his name, his signature, are on the bottom of the plea agreement that was signed by the Russian businessman involved in that case. So why in God's name would Mueller appoint Weissman, with this record of being overturned, to be involved in the Russia investigation? If we're going to be entirely honest, the entire Russia collusion investigation may never even have taken place if not for the complete hysteria on the left from the moment Donald Trump defeated Hillary on November 8th of 2016. Over the weekend, the president tweeted, quote, "Since the first day I took office, all you hear is the phony Democratic excuse for losing the election. Russia, Russia, Russia. Despite this, I have the economy booming and have possibly done more than any 10-month president. Make America great again." Now, the president is right to push these significant economic triumphs that have now taken place in the last 10 months. We're going to get to more of that good news in a minute. But first, I want to offer a sincere message to lawmakers in Washington. Despite setbacks, the House of Representatives, well, they have actually gotten some work done fighting for the president's agenda. They got the repeal and replace of Obamacare. They got the tax cut. They got 413 other bills and joint resolutions passed. But for the next 3.5 weeks, all eyes will be on the ineffective U.S. Senate, where we've seen a much different story unfolding. Now, of President Trump's 515 nominations, civilian nominations, only 249 have yet to be approved in almost a year. And, of course, we all remember the Senate's failure to repeal Obamacare. And now a tax reform vote is looming, but its fate is totally uncertain tonight. And like many other pieces of crucial legislation pushed by the Trump White House, well, you have several Republican senators standing in its way. So tonight we asked John McCain and Lisa Murkowski, Bob Corker, Jeff Flake, the snowflake, and others who might be planning to kill the tax cut bill. I have a message for you. Voters did not put you in office to do nothing and vote no on everything. The American people put you in office to solve difficult problems and get the job done. So you don't like something in the tax bill? Fix it. And I don't love everything in this bill either, but over the next 3.5 weeks, all of America's watching. They expect a tax reform bill, one that lowers the corporate rate, brings back money and jobs from overseas, that gives a middle-class tax cut, repatriation money, also the millions of energy jobs that will be created. Because remember, with these cuts, well, that makes the opening of factories in the U.S. possible. A tax reform bill that's going to spur economic growth, hopefully for decades to come. No, the bill's not perfect, but earlier today, Senator Rand Paul announced he will support the Senate's tax reform legislation. Like him, I wish it went further. It's time for other lawmakers to join him. There's too much at stake. Do you even care about the forgotten men and women in this country, people in poverty, on food stamps, out of work? Now, despite the Senate's inability to pass laws and approve the president's picks, well, the president, he's working at the speed of Trump and has for the last 10 months to get things done. And, of course, members of the lazy, destroy Trump media aren't interested in doing their job, so we'll continue to do it for them. Take a look at that screen right there. Here are just some of the president's accomplishments. Now, there are so many, it would take us way too long to read them all. On top of the president's accomplishments since he took office in January, look at the economic numbers. Things are booming. According to the latest numbers available, in October, 261,000 jobs created. Unemployment, a 17-year low. Consumer confidence, a 17-year high. Median existing home price for all housing types in October 27. People's biggest investment, well, that's up 8.7% from January of 2017. Stock market, again, all-time high. And more people are in the workforce than ever. And on the campaign trail, President Trump promised to make our economy great. Well, so far, that's exactly what he's doing. That's why the Senate needs to get off their backsides and pass this tax reform package. It's vital. Take a look at the president pushing this tax cut earlier today.
I think the tax bill is going very well. We had a meeting on it today. It's going to be a tremendous tax cut, the biggest in the history of our country. You'll have to pay a lot less tax. That's okay. But we're going to have a tremendous, I think we're going to have great receptivity. But if we win, I think we'll probably have a bipartisan bill, meaning a number of people are going to come over. But I'm not so interested in that. We're really interested just in getting it passed. Again, it will be the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country. It'll bring jobs. It'll bring a lot of income coming into the country, buying product, et cetera. And I think it's doing very well.